Welcome to High Infidelity, the best cheating videos on YouTube. If you enjoy this content, remember to subscribe and turn on notifications. Now let's get into the video.
My, female 22, boyfriend, male 25, proposed during his sister's wedding and I accepted, but I don't know if I want to marry him. My partner and I were in attendance at his sister's wedding on Friday. Their relationship has always been tumultuous. It was a beautiful wedding, and they seemed to get along well with one another. Approximately 2 hours had passed since we had arrived at the party when he approached the DJ and asked to use the microphone. I was under the impression he was going to toast his sister. No, it does not work like that. He asked me to come up to him and speak with him. I was feeling apprehensive. I recollect thinking to myself at the time, that is not what he is up to at all. No, it was also around this time that I saw his sister gazing at me. And we both had the same expression on our faces, although she was more outraged than I was. Afterwards, he makes a romantic proposal to me. He was in attendance at his sister's wedding. People were clapping all around us. And his sister seemed to be in tears as we approached. I was utterly unable to move. And I didn't know what else to do than nod my head in agreement. I was in tears at the time. However, they weren't happy tears. People were thrilled by the news. After that, I went up to his sister and expressed my regret once again. She was outraged at the time. In the same vein as MAD. I was very sorry for her plight. I left early, and my boyfriend came at our hotel room at 2 a.m. with a hammer, which he used to break the window. I was enraged, and I approached him as a result. He began by saying, "Babe, baby, babe." My whole family was there, and it was the most wonderful night, until he ultimately admitted that he had also done it because his sister had ruined his graduation by announcing her engagement to another man. After that, I didn't speak to him again until the next morning. I'm completely at a loss on what to do. He won't stop calling, and I'm fed up with it. When it comes to him, I'm at a loss for words. Update. My connection with him came to an end. It was a complete mess, and he was constantly pushing me to get back to him. His reasoning for doing so was that he really cared about me, and that showing his sister who was in charge was a fantastic bonus. We argued for a long time before I was able to bring things to a close. He didn't take it well since, from his point of view, he hadn't done anything wrong, and he assumed I was side with his sister, which I wasn't. I'd lost some friends who claimed that I was merely looking for an easy way out, and other similar rubbish was the reason for my departure. I'm really extremely unhappy right now since I still have a soft spot for him. Everyone appears to dislike me, even myself. I know it's such a weak thing to be affected in this manner, but I am still affected. Story 2. My 28 male, wife 27 female, left me for 3 months and recently begged me to take her back. I said no, and no, everyone seems to be against me. I need some advice, strangers. Allow me to share some background information since understanding the problem without it will be tough. I've been married to Denise, fake name, for 7 years, and she's the love of my life. It was a dream come true for us to be dating for 2 years before to that. But that changed when we were married and had a family. After our marriage, she started to feel unhappy and out of sorts, and I eventually persuaded her to visit a doctor, who referred her to a therapist. And it was through him that we realized she was suffering from depression caused by events in her past that she was striving to forget. I opted to be as helpful as I could, taking care of the most of the cleaning while working 40 hours a week and encouraging her to just get herself in order, and that if she needed to talk with me, I would be there to do so whenever she needed. When I left her, she was still depressed. She practically did nothing but whine and stay in bed. We had no intimacy, no snuggling, and no time to go out. My whole day was taken up with work and cleaning, and she was still depressed when she left. Daily, I pushed myself to exhaustion, returned home to a house in disarray, and immediately started cleaning, making supper, and other household chores. All I could expect at the end of the day was Denise to unload more of her issues on me and complain about herself, me, and everyone else in her environment, which was exactly what happened. I couldn't even go out with my friends to get away from it all, because she would call me all the time saying she was frightened and everything. So I didn't have a social life, not that I had time for it in the first place. In spite of everything, I kept going, hoping that she would ultimately come out of it, and that we could have a normal life together because I loved her, and, as they say, for better or worse. And this was clearly the worst it could ever be. It was definitely the worst it would ever be. It was only 4 months ago that she started seeing a new therapist, and it was only 3 months ago that she was told she needed time away from me since her depression began when we were married, and I may be the source of it. I began questioning myself, hating myself, and worried the instant she told me she was heartbroken, but behind it all, there was this creeping sensation of having done everything for her, having spent years of my life as a cash cow and for her to lie in bed. And this was my thanks? Is it my fault that this has happened now? In spite of my attempts to talk it out with her, she chose to go and stay with her mother, claiming she needed time away from me and that I was the source of her despair, and so on. The rest of the conversation is a blur in my mind. Upon her departure from the house, I spent the next month phoning her and her family, pleading and degrading myself in an attempt to win her back, apologizing for any wrongdoing on my part. To be honest, I was on the verge of giving up because I felt so hopeless at the time. I couldn't help but feel relieved as the month progressed. I returned home to find it quiet. I was able to indulge in hobbies I hadn't done in years. The house wasn't a mess every time I returned. I could relax, and after 2 months I realized I could hang out with my buddies again, grabbing a beer and enjoying life. Slowly, I realized I had been miserable for the previous month. That led to a series of realizations that culminated in the realization that I had no longer loved her. I felt like my youth was wasting away. I felt like I could be doing so much more than this. I felt like a caregiver for a handicapped old lady. Hell, I still looked good, and as I went out, I began to regain my self-confidence. Women would flirt with me. I felt wanted, even though I never flirted back. Following all of these realizations, I received a phone call from my wife, who informed me that she had made a terrible mistake, that she was sobbing uncontrollably, that she had been an idiot for believing the therapist's comments, and that she cherished me. I was speechless. For a short moment, I wished I could reply, "Yes, yes, please come back." It's just that I couldn't stop myself from telling her she had left me, and that I was done with this relationship, that I was going to file for divorce because I had wasted enough time as it was, that this final action of hers was the final nail in the coffin, and that I just dropped the phone and sobbed for a few minutes before turning in and feeling liberated. Every member of my family now believes that I am making a mistake, that I should take her back, that I owe it to her to try to make it work, that marriage isn't always enjoyable, and so on. But the truth is, in this marriage, I've never had any fun, and I can't recall the last time I had any fun while not being miserable. We're both young and fit, and we never even go out. Hell, the last time we had was more than a year ago. All I seem like to her is and I prefer to live my life rather than spend another hour taking care of her. On the other side, I ask myself, am I really dumping someone who is depressed? Am I being honest with myself? The fact is that I'm humiliated and feel like a failure. All I need is some guidance. Even though I'm having problems defending my wife at the time, allow me to clarify something that has come up in some of the comments. I know for a certainty that she did not have any relations with anybody throughout our time apart.